Hi, everyone. Hey, Jim. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to our 4th annual Aspire to Grow conference, and welcome. Thank you. And welcome to those folks that are joining us on Zoom as well. We appreciate you attending. I'm Haley Markinette, and I'm Assistant Dean in the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environmental Sciences. And 4 years ago, Karen Watts from Nutrien came to us with the idea and the funding to host an annual conference exploring themes in diversity, equity, and inclusion, entirely planned by students. And since then, Dr. Ann DeLay, who's over there, my co-pilot, and I have had the great honor of working with a new cohort of students every year to plan and execute this event. Each year I say this, that it's the best event ever. And then of course it just gets better and better each year. So this year's student committee has been working hard since fall quarter. They've been meeting weekly, and I think they've really planned a great event for us all, and definitely will be the best one yet. And so now I'd like to turn it over to our committee chairs, Kayla, Susanna, and Isaac. Who's my
Awesome. Well, welcome to the 4th annual Aspire to Grow conference. My name is Susanna. I'm a 3rd-year Recreation, Parks, and Tourism Administration major.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kayla Ryman, and I am a 4th-year Agriculture and Environmental Plant Science major.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isaac Lopez. I am a 2nd-year Agriculture Science major.
Awesome. Well, we're extremely excited to welcome you at the new Justin and Jaylor Center for Wine and Viticulture. And thank you again to our sponsor, Nutrien. How this is going to work today is Kayla, Isaac, and I are going to moderate questions at the beginning, and then at the very end, you guys, as the audience, will get the opportunity to ask some questions for our amazing speakers. And so let's get started.
As a thank you for joining us today, we have some prizes to give away throughout the event, and hopefully you have received a ticket from our cafe's ambassadors when you entered the venue. And to our Zoom attendees, we will also be selecting a few Zoom winners to win some awards as well. If your number is drawn, you can collect your prize from Nicolette, who is in the back of the venue. She's waving right there. And please wait until the end of the panel discussion to pick your prize. So our first raffle winner will be winning a Cal Poly mug. And this winner is, can we get a drum roll? Okay, 674672. Okay.
Maybe another one.
Okay, we have our winner. Okay. And then one Zoom attendee will be selected to win a Starbucks gift card. Okay. It is now my honor to introduce the Dean of the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environmental Sciences, Dr. Andrew Thulin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Isaac. Good afternoon. I sincerely appreciate you all joining us here today. I'm the Dean of the College of Ag, Food, and Environmental Sciences. This is my 9th year. It seems like just yesterday. Karen's the chair of our Dean's External Advisory Council. And so both my bosses are sitting right here. I'm sorry, I'm off script, Haley. Well, I want to thank you. This is the 4th one. And I remember when Karen came to me and said, you know what, we need to do this here. We're doing it at Colorado State, and you know, Cal Poly's better. So let's do it here. Maybe that was just me ad-libbing, but you know, it was a fantastic opportunity, and I worried a little bit the first year, but it turned out to be fantastic. It's in my opinion, it's one of the best events of the year because it's run by the students, as most all of our programs are, and we've had some wonderful, fantastic speakers over the last few years. One of the aspects of this whole thing is that it is all planned by students, and while they get coaching and mentoring from a couple of faculty and Haley as our assistant dean, they just do a bang up job. And so I'd like to invite you to join me in giving a nice round of welcome or thank you for Susanna, Kayla, and Isaac. They've done a great job this year. And this is one of our first events here at the Justin and Jaylor Center for Wine and Viticulture, and it's a beautiful facility. We're going to officially open it soon, right? In maybe a couple of months, I hope. I also want to just say thank you to our guest speakers. We got a tremendous group of speakers up here. And I hope you get a chance to spend some time after they speak. They'll have a little social or something here. And please get to know these people. The world's run by those who show up, shake their hand, and make sure they know who you are as students, because they can help you as coaches and mentors, and just reaching out once in a while. And I think that's very important, have that connection. Also want to say special thanks to Nutrien, because again, they've stepped up this year, and also Karen for just bringing this to us and making this happen. Karen's alumnus of the college. Yes. And in fact, she was the recipient of our College of Ag, Food and Environmental Sciences Alumnus of the Year award last year. And that's a big award and a tremendous event that we do. She's also chair of the college's advisory council, as I mentioned before, and a huge champion of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, both in her own organization, as well as here at Cal Poly. So I want to say thanks to those who are joining us by Zoom. And we took a little effort to get all that put together, but thanks, Marty and team back there. And I'm going to turn it back to the students, and let's get started with this. So thank you again for being here.
Okay, thank you so much, Dean Thulin. We're feeling very blessed and lucky to be here today. So with that being said, one more introduction before we get to our speakers. You've heard a little bit about her already, but here is Karen Watts.
So on behalf of Nutrien and Nutrien Ag Solutions, some of my colleagues are here today. So if you guys want to raise your hands, so make sure afterwards you get a chance to talk to. We have people that are from our digital group, people that are in our research and tech, our proprietary products, and marketing and sales. So just a lot. And Cal Poly alums, yeah. We brought a Chico and a Fresno State as well. But the Fresno State, her dad went here, so we count her as ours. I was gonna say. So Nutrien has a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And part of that is about bringing the next generation into agriculture. And there's so many aspects of agriculture that I think, how many of you are not raised on a farm? So such a great opportunity to learn about the different kinds of careers there are out in agriculture. And, you know, sometimes agriculture gets a funny kind of little twist. People like make a little face, but there's so many opportunities and so many chances to help feed the world, and everybody needs to eat. And there's a lot of people that go to bed hungry every night, people that don't have opportunity to have horticulture around them, flowers, plants, those kind of things. So it's a great opportunity to learn about the different careers. I've worked at this company for over 30 years and had such great experiences. I have a great love for Cal Poly. My husband says I'm in a cult up here, but I want to tell you, learn by doing is a thing. And if you have a chance, go online and watch John Madden's when he received his honorary doctorate last June, and he talks about learn by doing. And it kind of gives you chills because he said learn by doing changed his life and allowed him to become the person that he was, whether it was the coach, whether it was the broadcaster, or the video game guy. So with that, let's get started. I had a great time working with these guys, and they're going to do great things.
Thank you, Karen. So next we're going to do our second raffle. Okay, so everybody get your tickets ready. Okay, 674667. Hey. Congrats. Don't forget to see Nicolette at the back. Okay, so with that being said, let's get into some of these questions. So the first question we're going to discuss with our speakers is what is important for the audience to know about your background and is relevant to this discussion. We're going to go ahead and start with Rebecca on this one.
Okay, important about my background. I'm a first generation Mexican-American college student. I pretty much created my own path. I didn't have mentors. I paved the way for myself and for the rest of my family. What's important about that is that sometimes you're going to take some detours that, you know, were not in the direction that you were supposed to go, and that they'll question whether or not you, by doing things differently, you were making the right choices. And I think what's important for you guys to know is that if you feel it, if that's what your heart's telling you, keep going, even if the majority of people around you are doubting you. Because you will, as a Latina woman and a woman, you know, you will be challenged. And sometimes, you know, the people that are supposed to be there to support you will not. So I think it's important to just know and equip yourselves with the tools. That might be more classes, that might be watching YouTube videos, taking extra time to prepare yourself, and show them that you have that job because you deserve that job. Or you deserve to be at a club, or you deserve to be in a leadership position. It's important to never doubt yourself as you're going through your path.
Okay, I love that advice. Thank you, Rebecca. So next we're going to have same question for you, Leslie.
Awesome. Well, first, I've got dibs on these 3 students here. Now my business cards are out, and I'm always recruiting. So without question, we've got more jobs than we can shake a stick at. So if anybody's interested, see me after the program. But I just one I want to say for the students that are here, I am so very proud of you. So one, you're investing in yourselves. You could be at the beach, and looks like some folks have taken a detour. I would probably be one of those who would have taken a detour. I was just sharing with Karen that if I lived here, I would be terminated because I'd probably be sitting at the beach with no internet services and I would not be online most days. But I'll tell you a little bit about me, and it's interesting because as you look around the room, there are very few folks that look like me. And I'm in agriculture. But guess what? I was born and raised on a small farm. I'm from Brinkley, Arkansas, very small town. And I grew up on this street called Hamby, and they always say Hamby kids are killing it. So Hamby, we had about 2,000 people in the city and not very many folks. And of course, I'm from the South, so you'll hear a long Southern drawl. And when you think about, you know, everything that should have happened in my life, it didn't, just because of where I was born. I believe strongly that, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. And I had the support of my parents, and my mother just told us, you know, there were no limitations, no matter what I looked like. And so the room looks a lot like where I grew up. My college town was less than 1% minority. So we're not even talking just African Americans. It was less than 1% minority. And at the time, I tend to come, I'm not afraid to tell my age, I'm 51. But at the time, there was a building that I couldn't enter as an African American. And I know that is that's a history that we don't typically like to share, but it's something that we were able to overcome, because if you go out there now and look in the front of that building, there are bricks, and the bricks are names of folks who graduated from the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, and my name is out there. So that's a lot to overcome. Okay, and I'm very, very proud of that. So I'm a proud Razorback. I can still call the Hogs on any good day and any bad day. I have an identical twin sister, and we have just been extremely successful. One, because we never felt like there were barriers or chains in front of us. Even with the organization that I am from, I've been hired as the very first African-American officer of the company, very first vice president to stand up a center of excellence. And think about it, I'm from Brinkley, Arkansas. 2,000 people, and the poor little city doesn't even have a high school at this point. So you can imagine the blight of that poor little city. We lost our Walmart, guys. So it is bad, okay? But with that said, you know, you can be anything you want, anybody you want to be, anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. You just have to be determined to do it. So if I had to leave you with something about me, that's the nugget. Take that away and stay in the building. That's investing in yourself.
Thank you so much, Leslie. That's awfully inspiring. Okay, next we'll have Tony.
Well, good afternoon. I am so thrilled to be here. I have to say I've been on a number of panels, even panels on diversity, but this is the first time I've been on a panel with all women. So that's pretty awesome. So thank you to the organizers and to Karen as well, to Nutrien. So my role at Ag Biome is I'm the chief operating officer. That means that I run all the business operations, which is IT, sales and marketing, production, and not research. Research is the one thing I don't do, but I have 3 college degrees in biology. So as I look at all of you in the room and thinking about you're finishing your degree, there's a good chance that many of you are not going to end up doing in your career what you studied to do. And so the one thing that I learned very early, 2.5 years after I finished my PhD in agricultural entomology and started at BASF, I started to get in front of customers and realized that I genuinely loved being in front of customers and working in the business. And so I took the initiative on my own to approach our business leader and say, I want to do that. I've never taken a business class in my life. I've never taken economics or accounting, but I want to do that. And the rest was history because I ended up moving into sales and marketing. I did take a few business classes, but I do not have an MBA. But what I do today is everything except for research. So what I learned throughout my career, especially in times of turbulence, the ag chem industry has consolidated tremendously over the last 25 years. There used to be 12 big ag companies, then there were 6, and now there's 4, maybe arguably 3. And so there was a lot of turmoil during that time where people lost their jobs. And the one thing that I learned is you have to manage your career. You cannot sit back and let things happen to you, whether it's in school or it's your job at McDonald's or it's your career. You cannot let things happen to you. You have to drive that change. Just like me going and telling our business leader, I want to do that. He thought I was crazy. He went and talked to my boss, and my boss tried to talk me out of it. And my mom and dad thought I was crazy too, because I was, they were like, you just spent how long in college and now you're going to do this? But if you allow others to manage your career, you're going to end up doing things that are not going to be fulfilling for you. And you're going to feel like a victim, right? That you don't have control over your life and what you're doing. So that's the one thing that I pulled out. And in 23 years at BASF, I changed jobs 16 times. I had 16 different jobs as a result of restructuring. And every one of those I took as an opportunity and made it mine. Like even when it might not have been my top choice, I made it mine because I said, I'm not going to let things happen and feel like a victim. So I hope that that's something that I could leave with all of you today, because I really enjoy what I'm doing now. I still love bugs, but I really do love working for Ag Biome and working in business now. So.
Thank you, Tony. I too am a fan of bugs. Okay. Okay, up next we have Simone.
I'm just going to say that I need to take a deep breath after hearing all of these women with their very inspiring stories. So thank you so much for kicking us off like that. I studied physical therapy in school, and I work in wine now. So yes, my name's Simone Mitchelson, and I'm the South Coast Estate Manager for Jackson Family Wines. We have 30 wineries across the United States, and internationally, we encompass Europe, Africa, South America, and of course, North America. So the word resilience and how that pertains to me, I think about it in my personal life, in my professional life, and then what does that word mean to us as women? So in my personal life, just like Rebecca, I am a first-generation immigrant. My family moved over from South Africa in the mid-90s when I was a child. Me and my older sister, and then my parents continued to have 4 more kids in West Michigan. So I probably had a town that looked very similar to yours, Leslie, in Arkansas. And growing up there, to have an immigrant family, our traditions were so much different. Our foods were so much different. We ate curry on Thanksgiving. First time I had turkey, I was 12 years old. It just trying to adapt and fit into a place that there weren't a lot of people that looked like me there. So I struggled with identity. Honestly, I still do, and I'm 29 years old. So trying to find out how I fit into the wine industry, where there's not a lot of women who look like me. There are getting to be more and more women in this industry. I work in Santa Barbara County, which actually has the largest per capita female winemakers in the entire world. So we're really proud of having 4 wineries there. I manage 4 brands there for the Jackson family. So in my professional life, resilience, it's kind of the same as my professional. I'm usually the only woman of color in most rooms that I'm in. And I struggle with that. I am now a hiring manager within the company. So I am actually the first Black estate manager that Jackson Family has ever had since they opened in the 80s. Thank you. And I hired the first Black operations manager that our South Coast branch has ever seen. So we are changing what diversity looks like in that area, specifically in the wine industry too. And we're really on the forefront there. So resilience as just overall, what does that mean to us? You know, as Black women, woof, you know, we're told that we're strong to be resilient. You know, it's the ability to bounce back and recover from traumatic situations, from stress, from adversity. But it's hard to be giving grace in those situations where people expect you to be resilient and you're not actually allowed to be vulnerable a lot of the time. When you show emotion or anger, it's kind of humanity stripping in a way. So I struggle with the word resilience too. You know, it's empowering to have that mental fortitude and to be an example, but also like the deep breath that I took at the beginning of this, sometimes we just have to take a deep breath at the end as well. We're really on the forefront of a lot of DEI work, which we say it's 2022, why aren't we farther? But we're making an impact right now. So I'm really proud to be a part of that change in the industry right now.
It's so awesome to hear that we're having some real life impact here. Okay, so lastly, we'll have Shamika share a little bit.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shamika Durson, and I am from Elanco. I will tell you, you know, when I think about the questions, my background and the relevance to the discussion. If you had told a young girl from Alabama, who I actually now have 2 business degrees, that I would have a 15-year career with one of the top animal health companies, I would have been like, yeah, right. So I'll share, you know, part of my age is when the FDA used to stamp the meat, I thought it was like, yeah, they make sure it's safe and that's all they do, right? But I will tell you, over my career, I immersed myself into Elanco. I started out actually just as an HR assistant. I was very intrigued by the human health side of actually where we were a part of Eli Lilly and Company. And I basically said, you know, every experience that I have, I've listened to all of the journeys here. One of the things that I want to tell you, I'll talk a little bit more about my career later. Every opportunity, make sure you take a lesson or something from it. It will build your resume. It will build you as a person. So when you hear us talk about changes in career, that don't say, oh, that's why I don't want to do that. I don't want to keep changing. It made a lot of us in this room a lot stronger to go through each journey that we went through. And we're much, much stronger and ready and able to talk to you today to share our journey transparently. Being with your bug people, you got your, I'm sorry. But the reason all of my experience is relevant today is because I was able to take my strengths and focus in on what are the strengths that I bring to agriculture. And I met a group of people back in 2005 at this place called Elanco. And I said, my first reaction, and I'll tell you what was in my head, thank God it doesn't pop above my head. There's a lot of cowboy boots in here, and I don't have any. But I looked beyond what I saw, which I think we all should do. And I got to know those people, and I found a group of very passionate people who loved what they do. I understood how their world connected to my world. Ag is everywhere. This bug that keeps flying around my face, but also from my clothes to the food that I eat to just how this community contributes to the world. And I fell in love with it. And so my background, while it is not the traditional background in animal health, when you learn the passion and respect that everyone brings to the table, every one of you in here has something that is making the world a better place. That's what has built my career for 15 years, and just honored to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that insight. Before we move on to our second question, we are going to be doing another raffle, and this will be for an Amazon gift card. Sorry, not an Amazon gift card, a Cal Poly towel. And our winner is 674654. Sorry, did we get a winner? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. So for our question, we are going to be asking, how has the pandemic revealed or impacted the effectiveness of equity practices within your company, and how have you needed to adapt? We're going to start with Leslie.
Gee, okay. Well, I thought we were going to start with Shamika down there because she's got a ministry going on down there. Well, just, so the best part about the pandemic, and I will just say this from a personal perspective, did we not get a chance to learn our family members? So, whether you like them or not. So I can tell you that I had many folks from my organization at the time. I just changed over to Nutrient about a year ago. Yesterday was my 1-year anniversary. But I had the men in my organization that traveled a lot to say, Leslie, you got to release this pandemic. I got to get out of the house. So it was really giving them a chance to be a part of a very integral part of the family. And we had to figure out, from an organizational perspective, different dynamics. So we had folks who had loved ones who could not stay in facilities and, health facilities. We had folks who had children who had to go to school. I was one of them. I was nobody's homeschool teacher. I had to pray. Literally, I signed up for tutoring as soon as the pandemic hit. So I wasn't as bad off as some folks, but hey, I am nobody's homeschooler. And we were staying up initially until 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to make sure he submitted his work because you had to learn the systems. And so if we found out nothing else about ourselves as an organization, it was more about the people, identifying with the people and their needs. And so we've created inside of Nutrient what is called Future of Work. And I know that other organizations have co-signed, prescribed, to companies like a McKinsey study who has given us solid data on what's happening in our family structures. So we've got aging parents that we are dealing with. We're dealing with, our children at home. No one could go to daycare because there were no daycares open. So we had to figure out what to do to really keep those employees actively engaged. And now we understand that we've got to think about this differently. So we have folks working in every state, all 50 states at this point. We didn't have that before. We literally have had to create state licensing so that our folks can sit in these locations and not be out of compliance. We've had leaders who have changed jobs literally because it was helpful for the family structure, and we've been flexible. We've had to, sign up for, the whole vaccination process. And that was difficult because conversations entered the workforce that have never entered before. For example, some folks, from a religious perspective, did not believe in vaccinations and still don't. And so as Nutrient, if you work for us, if you are a new employee, you have to be vaccinated. Well, that is excluding a few folks from the employment pipeline. So those are considerations that we've had to make. And it's been tough because we've had to sever some folks who, and in roles where you are required to travel, you had to have a vaccination, and those folks were not willing to get the vaccinations. So as a rule, we've had to terminate some folks in the company. So they're hard decisions. And it's also hard to understand that returning to work is something we have to do. So as companies, we've got assets. We have buildings. Actually, we've built a few brand new buildings out of Canada where we don't want those buildings to go empty and just shine lights and be a part of the skyline. We need people to get back, get into the building and start working again so that we normalize society. So we've had a lot of great, red light moments and a lot of green lights that say now change the dynamics of the workforce. And that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. It's definitely interesting hearing how Nutrient has expanded to all 50 states, and thank you for your insight. The same question now for Simone.
I knew that I'd be next. Well, we had to make a lot of adjustments as well. Something that we're really proud of within Jackson Family is equity. It's something that we talk about all of the time. For myself, I lead community relationships as a part of our IDEA Alliance, which is our version of a DEI committee. Something that we had at the beginning of last year was a survey go out to all of our employees to just basically see what the employee base thought we were doing well, where we could improve, and how do we move forward? What's the appropriate action to take? Working from home was massive for people with families and for people without. So flexible work schedules is top to bottom. Being the South Coast Estate Manager, I work primarily with direct to consumer. So I develop DTC strategy. I take care of our tasting rooms, wine clubs, e-com, as well as direct selling. So people have to be physically in our tasting rooms, but we are now allowing them to choose your own schedule, and we can be flexible around that as well. The pay gap is something that we talk about a lot. We have equal men, women, and non-binary in our company too. Our pay rates are some of the highest in the industry as well, and that's something that we are really proud of. So anyone looking for a job within the wine industry too, honestly, throwing out that. I have business cards as well. Yeah, it's something that's just a really big part of the conversation, you know, and it's ongoing. I'm really proud of the fact that within Jackson Family and having a DEI committee specifically, we are talking about community relationships, communications, talent acquisition, and evaluating what our company culture is. It is a family-run company. The owner is Barbara Benke, her two daughters, Catherine and Julia Jackson, and her son, Chris. Being family-run, family values is something that we talk about a lot. Yesterday, I was in a meeting with our entire executive team. I feel like I'm coming across as very confident. I am not a good speaker at all. My hands are shaking underneath this table. But speaking to our executive team too about what do family values mean outside of the family? Like, what does it mean to our workforce here? We talk about being a family, but how do we practice that? We talked about paternity leave, massive. Reevaluating what our maternity leave looks like as well, working from home, and then who's in our workforce, what communities are they in, and what makes the most sense for schedules accordingly. So it's something I think that is really important, is talking about the longevity of this work, and we need to reevaluate consistently. And this pandemic will be ongoing. You know, it's not something that we can say, all right, we've solved it. We are now the best company in the world. Like, we have to continuously reevaluate who we are as Jackson Family Wines, and we look for feedback from our employees as a base. If we're going to call ourselves a family, we want to act like it.
Thank you so much for highlighting the importance of flexibility. I know as students being flexible and our professors being flexible, it's definitely something that we appreciate. Can we hear from Shamika next?
Sure. When I think about how it affected our equity, and that's, you know, I don't want to repeat a lot of the things that we've heard. So we've looked at flexibility in workplace, and we're benchmarking, and we're looking at what is needed by employees right now. I didn't say this earlier, but we're also hiring. So, but I want to share with you how I had to adapt. How I had to adapt. I go back to March of 2020, and I was told, you just got a promotion and you got a new team. And I was so excited. And I met my team for 15 minutes. And about 6 days later, I was told to go home because things are serious. So imagine you got this promotion. Like, it was one I was waiting on too. I was like, yeah, it took me, you know, from here to here. And they said, go home. So imagine, I've spent my career in college. I've been in the workplace the whole time. And they said, go build a new team, bond with them, get them to collaborate, make sure they're working together. You have to now be their manager, all on Teams. So it was a huge learning curve for me. And what I had to do to adapt is a question that I want you to ask yourself, all of you, including not just the students. How are you doing? through all of this. And one of the things that I did with my team was when I said it, I meant it, because it was the first question that I asked when I started the call. And if you gave me an answer that I knew wasn't accurate, I'd be like, let's try this again. And so it was to adapt for me was one, making sure that I knew how to grow a team. And someone said, I can't believe you built that much cohesiveness through teams. It can be done. You have to figure out how to do it. The second piece that I want to tell you is that I'm here today is the other piece that I had to adapt for, to talk to the next generation, because I was doing my research. Now, my full-time job is something totally different. That's what pays my bills. But my passion is students and the next generation, because you all are the ones that are going to carry on the legacy. Because I was reading and someone said, this remote world is great, but what about me and networking? How do I network? So I came back out. I just want you to know that, to network with you. This is my first opportunity to network after a couple of years. I'm excited to be here. So that's how I've adapted, is making sure that I'm also interacting with that next generation, so you don't feel like you don't have the network that we had to build our careers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight. We'd love to hear from Rebecca next.
Okay. I can ramble. I talk every single day, all day. I'm a recruiter. What's really cool about the pandemic, I always like to see the positive in things. So I've been working for Brightview for 6 years, recruiting, on site for 3. And after that, I started working remote. I was fortunate to have one of the few positions that allows you to do that. And I think a lot of the people in the organization didn't understand that. Is she really working? What is she doing, right? So then you have this pandemic hit and a lot of people have to go home. Now they're like, oh my gosh, she is actually working. You can get things done at home. So that worked out for me really nicely. But I think a lot, I know that a lot of companies did a lot of things in a very similar fashion. But I think there's a lot of things that I think helped Brightview improve during this time because of the pandemic and what was going on. One of the things that I think was important during this time is safety. I think that a lot of our laborers in several industries tend to be a certain demographic. And I feel that some corporations did not place the importance on safety, and we're not giving the workers the right equipment. Brightview from day one, we all were in a good situation to have masks, to have sanitizers. We were dispatching our teams to leave the yards and be able to come back home safe, alive, and to really minimize the spread of the virus. So that was one of the things that made me very, very proud of Brightview. I also have a different perspective because I had a baby a week after shelter in place was called. So, and an appreciation for the company for being able to respect my decision to protect my baby. So we changed to a virtual environment, and for a lot of the meetings had a network, through Zoom, had it at that time, and then Teams eventually. So, we really were taking that into consideration. But, as people were talking about social justice, because that's, the other thing that popped up during this time, it became a trending topic, TikTok, Instagram, hashtags all over the place. Everybody was talking about it. Hey, we have diversity. Hey, we have this, one Mexican doing this thing, or we have a Black person doing this thing. That was it for a lot of companies. When I came back from maternity leave, I was actually having some very solid conversations about what our organization looked like. And I was able to start bringing up the topic that we're all eventually going to fall in a diversity category. Think about that for a second. Diversity, age, gender, disability, we're all going to be there. And so what does that look like for us as an organization when it comes to the talent we recruit? In reality, the more you focus on every single aspect of diversity, your organization is going to be stronger. So I think we were able to implement that in our recruiting practices and really talk to our teams about taking a good look at what talent we did have. So, maybe the person didn't have technological skills. Could we get them that? Could we get them into schooling? Let's give them a chance. Are they selling for the manager that's taking the commissions? Let's get them to be an account manager. Let's get them that credit. So, I think that our organization went in a better direction. Not that we were in a bad direction. We went in a better direction. Another thing that made me very excited was, I had always, wondered, man, we're, a publicly traded company. We really could do more out there for the community. During this time, we established a social justice fund. And what that was that the employees had an opportunity to nominate nonprofits that were important to them that were bridging the gap. And you know me, I fill out every single form that comes my way. So I was able to nominate 3 organizations that are changing the community, and all 3 got grants. One of them being an organization that gave scholarships to students, diverse students that were first generation. That was huge for me to be able to make that impact in the community, and one of my career goals, to be honest with you. So I ramble again. So if I'm saying too much and taking time, it's okay to stop me, buzz me, whatever you need to do. But I do think that Brightview benefited, if you could say that, from what was going on in society. And I think we took a really good turn, and we kept growing. We never stopped. We continue to grow, but we continued delivering results and thinking differently. And I'm very grateful to be part of a company 6 years later that's heading in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you made a great point of how in points of uncomfort, there can be progress. So thank you for highlighting that. And Tony, we'd like to hear from you next.
We're hiring too, by the way, just saying. I don't know how many of you are familiar with AgBiome, but one of the things that we're known for is our unique culture. Our culture was featured at the Yale School of Business several years in a row. It's a very flat organization. We thrive on collaboration and full transparency. So all of our major business functions are managed by employees. So we have committees, employee committees for things like compensation, benefits like your insurance benefits, things like that. And so we really thrive on collaboration. And so, when the pandemic hit, what we realized is that we're a lot more diverse than any of us realized. What got heightened tremendously were things like pet owners and non-pet owners. Whether you have kids or not, who manages the kids? Is it the mom or is the dad, or are you a single parent? What's your political affiliation? How do you feel about vaccinations? How do you feel about masks? All those things were heightened tremendously at a time when we never completely shut down, since we're in agriculture and considered a essential business. So we were really, our heads were spinning a little bit with how are we going to manage that? So we instituted a number of things. We already had flexible work arrangements. We had one gentleman who was coming in at 10 o'clock in the morning. He'd work till noon. He'd go teach a class because he wanted to be a teacher in his next life. Then he'd come back to AgBiome and work the rest of his day. So we already had that. So we really struggled with what are some things we need to do. One of the things that became very, very apparent is that we are now in a mental health crisis. The isolation was really good for people like my husband, who loves to stay at home by us. He is introvert. There's his picture is next to the definition in the dictionary. He loved that. But many of us, myself included, struggled with being isolated and being home away from my friends, my family, and frankly, my colleagues. So I brought in a mental health professional. So she comes in every Monday for 4 hours. She sits there. You don't have to make an appointment with her. It's free. You drop in and you tell her. I had 4 people in 1 week tell me that they were going through significant anxiety that they felt had nothing to do with AgBiome. It just had to do with getting up on a Monday morning and coming into work. And once they got to work, it was okay, but just the act of getting in was difficult. We also instituted Fido Fridays. So we have Dog Friday. So if you don't like dogs, or you're easily distracted by cute puppies like I am, you're not going to have a very productive Friday. But actually, we do allow people to bring their dogs in any day of the week. It doesn't have to be Fridays. They just have to check with their colleagues and make sure that that's okay. We also did something where it was before children were allowed to be vaccinated, but there were people that were struggling with coming into the office. They may have had lab jobs, and how do I make sure that my children are being properly cared for? We dedicated a conference room to masked children that could come in and do art projects, and our employees took turns going in and checking on the kids. So there were a number of things that we did to try to heighten the things that we were already doing at AgBiome. because we were encouraging people to please come back to work because it's such an important part of our culture. And yes, we do allow people to work from home. One of my employees works in upstate New York, and that's absolutely fine. But we needed to have a whole nother level of flexibility to accommodate the different diversity that we don't usually think about, and tell people, hey, by the way, it's okay if your dog starts barking during a Zoom call. It's really okay. You don't have to apologize for that because we're all at home and it's really okay. So, so we're still looking at our culture. We have a beliefs and behaviors document that captures all of our values that we don't think are going to change over the next 100 years that we're in business. But how we execute on those is super important. And the other thing that I want to mention is I mentioned employee-led committees. We also had a COVID committee that was employee-led. There was no manager on that committee. It was 6 individuals who determined when we fully come back to work. So we never shut down, but our office people were working from home. So they determined when we were coming back. They were the ones that brought the science into the workplace. These were largely PhD scientists who totally geek out on that data. And so they were bringing that in and educating us. In May, our employee base was 95% vaccinated. And we didn't require it. We do require it now for new employees, but at the time we didn't. But we knew that there were people that didn't want to get back. So we said, okay, you want to come into the office, just get a COVID test. We'll buy them. We bought the home test kits. So they're actually in the office. So they test every Monday before they come in so that they feel comfortable coming in. And just 2 days ago, North Carolina removed the mask mandate. But I noticed yesterday there were still a number of people wearing their masks, and it's really okay. So I think we started from a pretty good base already, but there was a very high level of expectation from our employees when all of this hit. And so those were just some of the things that we put into place.
Thank you so much, Shani. Thank you for bringing in mental health as well. I know that's a huge part of the pandemic and something that we've all had to learn and grow. Yeah, okay. To keep you awake and everything like that, we're going to do another raffle. We're going to do a Starbucks gift card this time. Everyone pull out your tickets. I know a few people just came in. If you didn't grab a ticket, oh, more tickets. Pause. Okay, the winner of the Starbucks gift card is 674682. Awesome. Just grab the gift card from the back from Nicolette at the end. Congrats. Well, one topic I think all of you speakers have covered is that you're hiring. I want to see the dogs for sure. So with that question, I want to ask you, what is one suggestion that you have for our community, students, staff, and faculty to ensure that we are engaging effectively for a changing workplace? Leslie, I know you started last time, but do you want to start again? Oh wait, no, you didn't start last time. Just kidding. Go for it.
But I don't have to now. You can let anybody.
I want to change it up. Yeah. Simone, do you want to start?
Sure. Sorry, I'm keeping the questions on my phone to make sure that I'm answering them all appropriately. Okay. All right. One suggestion you have for our community to ensure we are engaging effectively for a changing workplace? Well, there are now a variety of generations working in one workplace, and that variety of generations thinks very differently. So it's something that honestly, like I have to learn every day as well. Engaging, I am the youngest manager on my team right now. So how do I manage people who are older than me? And then people who have just left college, who are my younger siblings' generation. I'm one of 6 kids, and I still don't know how to use TikTok. And my siblings, they teach me a lot. And the most important thing is to keep an open mind, know that we don't all think the same, but everybody deserves the same rights in the workplace, the same rights overall. So I think just keeping that mindset, we all need to learn from each other. We are in a very peculiar time in our lives overall. And we've been bombarded with a variety of things over the past couple of years that all of us, like we say that the one thing we have in common is we're all experiencing this together, but we also all have a variety of personalities, a variety of different backgrounds. So we experience things differently. When people wake up in the morning and say that it's hard to come into work, once you get there, it's okay, but it's still like depression and anxiety are huge right now. And the fact that we're even talking about it is massive. I come from an African family, and my mother, she has suffered from mental illness for over 10 years. And in our community, that is just not talked about. So now that we can speak about it openly is enormous. And my brothers and sisters know that it's okay. Like if they see therapists, we've all started seeing therapists, and it's the healthiest thing that I will reiterate that over and over and over again, just to be able to speak about like what we're feeling right now. How on earth do we process that? That's something that I really appreciate about the company that I work for as well. We partner with Modern Health. So therapy is accessible, subsidized, or free in some cases too. To be able to have that kind of security, we have mental health days for our staff as well, which I've never been a part of a company that's ever offered that. So that was something really new to me. I'm 29 years old and I've been in the wine industry for 10 years. So it really does seem like we're turning a leaf in that way, but it means that the company is, we say that we're a progressive company, and that means so many things. It is a very broad word and it encompasses a lot of different things. But what it tells me is that our CEO and the proprietor of this business is open-minded and knows that we need to adjust and change and adapt so that there can be a more inclusive culture overall. I brought up DEI with every single question, but it's something that's really important to me. I started the Cal Poly BIPOC Scholarship for wine and viticulture students here, even though I didn't attend this school. Thank you. But the fact that the company coming in, and when I was hired, I said that that's something that I would like to lead is community relationships. They kept an open mind, and now I drove down here from Sonoma to be here right now because this is just an incredibly important conversation that we're having. So I appreciate y'all inviting me to be a part of this too. Thank you. To leave with the notion that we just need to keep an open mind and know that no matter what, we're going to have to adapt and change, and to respect where each other is standing all collectively with this. Hi, Moses. Yeah, we are, it's cheesy to say, but we have to be all in this together, and we have to adapt and grow together too.
Thank you so much. Rebecca, you want to take it?
Get ready for me rambling for a little bit more. I think that, first off, I think that professors have such an interesting role in shaping the careers of their students. I know that in some schools, there's more of a focus on passion, pursuing your intellectual passions. And few professors believe in actually figuring out how to transfer those skills into the workforce. So I think that the more opportunities that you have for your students to hear how what you're teaching them is going to transfer into the professional world is very helpful. I feel like if I would have had more of that, it would have been a different experience for me. It might have even been a little bit easier for me to go into the real world. I think the topic of mental health is coming up a lot. It is important. And I think that, one thing I didn't include in my bio is that, my dad, he was a laborer and he worked his way up into ag management to being, the right hand for a small family-owned ag company. I grew up on that ranch. He always worked. He set no boundaries. He took no vacations. So when I went into the professional world, that's what I kind of went with, you work, you get a check, you keep working. There really is no time to take a break. I wish somebody had taught me in my college years that balance is also very important. It was something that I had to learn, develop, stop, and really reflect. What I like about Brightview is that I get 3 weeks of paid time off a year if the moment I start working with them. You have to accrue it, but you do get those 3 weeks. When you hit 5 years, you get another week. So I'm eligible for 4 weeks of paid time off. I get 9 company holidays. So guess what? I get to prepare Christmas Eve dinner, and I get to enjoy Christmas Day. And then I can also ask for some time off right after that. So think about that, because I did work in retail where I closed the Target store Christmas Eve. And I was really upset because I was not in my best outfit by the time I got home. So talk about work-life balance, right? So that's one of them. And I think what I really, really like about, working at Brightview is that, we were talking about mental health before it was a thing. We have an employment assistance network where if you call that network and you have, legal issues or any mental health issues and you need help, because sometimes we all need that check-in with somebody that's not our family members. Maybe you go through a breakup, when you work with multiple generations, that's going to happen, Maybe, LGBT community, you have an employee that's there and they went through a breakup, they're trying to figure out how to deal with that because they're trying to deal with their identity and where they're at. So we have a number where people can call and they don't have to talk to their coworkers about it. They can just call this number and get referred to 3 free sessions. These are the things that you as faculty members and students, you want to look into employers. Are they offering that? Because you're going to be investing some good time with these companies. You're going to be working hard for them. But are they giving you something to make it worth it? What I like about Brightview is that, we just implemented, you get 1 PTO day to go work for the nonprofit of your choice. That's amazing. 8 hours to go work, for something that you care about and give back to the community. So, for, professors connect students to these organizations that are going to give them something in return, that are going to invest in them. We have a partnership with the University of Arizona Global Campus. If you want to go for a second bachelor's or an MBA program, we'll pay for it for free, 100% paid for. It's a virtual program. So, who does that? Maybe other companies here do that. Well, Brighty's doing that too. And my business cards are on your chair. So if you guys want to take those, in the very subtle blue bag, there they are. But I think there's not that many companies that do it. If they do tuition reimbursement, they're going to do a fraction of it. And it's going to be, an uphill battle to get the class approved. So did I go too much? I'm learning, Leslie. I'm learning from you guys, So anyways, I'm done. Go ahead and buzz me. But, I think I rambled, and I think I gave you guys some takeaways for our faculty for the faculty members to really help the students.
No, that was great. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Oh, my mic is okay. I'll take just a few seconds because I want to give the other panelists an opportunity to speak. But I would say expose yourself. So I'll just give you a couple of very quick tips. When I am in a room, I take notes. So I think the staff will recognize the fact that I at lunch pulled out a notebook. And I am 30 years into the corporate America arena. So I would always say, no matter where I go, I take a notebook, I take notes, I expose myself. I have a board of directors that I've established for myself, both personal and professional. And I would hope that you would consider something similar, and you can get all sorts of resources from the internet on establishing these boards of directors. But from a professional perspective, if you are interested in pursuing a career in a particular place, establish a board of directors. So mentors, mentees, we don't talk enough about that. But I have, I went to Nutrien, I think I had 50 mentees overnight. So I've got a truckload of folks that I am trying to coach and bring along for the journey, along with the entire organization from an EDI perspective. But it's very important that you establish right out of the gate a mentor, someone that can help coach you and advise you. And I'll have a little prize for a few folks that I see in this room that are taking really good notes, that are very attentive, that came on time. So there's some really quick things just right there that says, this is how you engage effectively. So, as a person who works for a very, very large company, by the way, so we're about 45 billion, and I can talk about earnings year over year. We're setting records, and we hold the title for very, very largest fertilizer, largest potash. And so we've got lots of really great things to talk about as an organization. But without question, we're always on the hunt. So we're always looking in the audience, we're looking in the community for folks who we believe will be a really good fit for the organization. And I've identified a few folks out there, so I'm gonna have my business card ready for you when I leave. But again, I'll engage you if you engage me. And I think every employer here can say the same things. If you're active, I'm active. It takes a lot to keep up with my energy, even at 51. I have to go to my young professional network. They can keep up with my energy, but a lot of folks talk about energy. Energy is important. So if you're actively engaged, I see it. If you're asking questions, which I always encourage people to come with, they make sense to me. There's no dumb question in the book. So keep that in mind. And then I'll share this and I'll leave you with this. So most corporations have pillars. They've got goals, objectives, et cetera. And a part of ours is we've got 4 pillars that are employees, suppliers, community, and customers. Okay, leave out the customers. But a part of the 4 pillars is community. And so we are actively engaged in our communities. This is one of our engagement activities where we're bringing to light the brand of Nutrient to all of you that sit in this audience. We want all of you, your mamas, your daddies, your uncles, your chickens, literally, we have jobs available, but there's also opportunities for you to engage with us. So keep that in mind as you go places. Students, guys, this is the world, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit and then beyond. So think of yourself as this moving object. You can have anything you want, especially if you bring a smile to the table and you show us that you want it, we're gonna give exactly what you give us. We'll give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Moving over to this side. Tony, you ready? Take it away.
We don't have chicken Fridays, by the way. So I want to echo a little bit of what Leslie said. So the mentoring piece, I know that Cal Poly has a peer mentoring program to really help show new students around, things like that. But just a variation on the theme. Can we all just start caring about each other again? Like really reaching out and caring about each other instead of me, which is what we've become in the last 2 years, right? So at AgBiome, we have our agents, our mentors are called agents, and they do more than just mentor you on your career. They check in with you when you're working from home to see how are you doing. They know when things are, they're trained. So all the agents are trained, they're highly confidential, and they know how to ask questions to check in and make sure that you're doing okay with your career, in your family life, whatever you might want to share. So if I could offer any advice, I mean, I think, and by the way, whoever said the mental health day, that's a really good one, because I know that when you're in school, it's super stressful. I've got 2 kids in college right now, and I know what they're going through. But you know, to have a mentoring program that goes beyond just what the way we normally think of mentoring, I think is super important. It's about caring for each other. And I liked what you said, Leslie, about a board of directors. I call it an advisory board. So you shouldn't just have one mentor. You should have an advisory board, and that might be your sister, your best friend, could be your daddy, could be, you know, your coworkers. You should have an advisory board because they're all going to give you different type of advice that you may or may not want to take, right? So a lot of times I have females come to me and they'll say, well, I would really like to ask you to be my agent because you're a female. And I'm like, yeah, but you need to have a few men as you're on your advisory panel too, because they think differently. There are, you know, I love to study gender culture in the workplace. It's so fascinating. And there are differences in gender culture in the workplace. And an agent can help you through that. An agent or a mentor can be a sounding board when you're just ticked off and on the verge of tears and you just need to let off some steam. They're a confidential person that you can go to. So it's a little bit of a variation on the mentorship, but I would say as we're coming out of this pandemic, we just need to care about each other again. And that might be one good way to express that.
Thank you so much. I have a mentor and she's helped incredibly too. So it's very important. Shamika, wait, yeah, go for it.
So one, it's an honor to be up here and hear about a lot of things that the companies are doing, including my company. But one thing that I want to talk to our community about, because this is our community, and to the students and to the staff. And I will tell you that some of the things that I've done along the way is I've made sure that I've connected with this generation to find out what their needs are and am I connecting with them at their level. And I've learned a lot of things from this next generation. The other thing that I want to tell the students is build a strong team. The reason I want to talk about it from the concept of a team, you start with your parents, you move on to the university, you will move to the workplace, you may start your own business, you may work for your family's business, but we all need a team. If we think about the concept of the Olympics, do you think that they get down into what do you look like? What do they eat? Where do they go? No, who's going to help us get to gold? Is that right? Is that where the focus is? Who's going to help you get to gold? So when you start to select your team, when you start to select the companies that you work for, make sure that you know who they are, you know about these companies, and you pick a team that's going to help you get to gold. Does not mean you won't make mistakes. It does not mean you will not get tired. I tell people, learn not to quit, learn to rest and get back up. But I look at every day, whether it's in my personal or professional life, of who's on my team that's going to get me to that next level. So I say that to all of you. That's the message to our community. No matter what you're doing, no matter what your background is, we all have the same passion, but who's going to be on our team to get to gold? And that needs to be a lot of different people for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think everything that you all said, very, very valuable, and we should all take that in. Now we have some time for Q&A if anyone has any questions in the audience. If you want, Kayla and Isaac will line up over here on the sides of the stage, and you guys can line up. If you want to just come on up too, or do you have a question? Yeah, if you want to just line on up here. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But while we're having everyone line up, we have a few more raffles. So raffle, oh, do you want to go over there? Yeah, sorry. If you want to do a raffle, we have an Amazon gift card. It's going to be 674681. Awesome. Yeah, just grab it at the end. Awesome. So Isaac, if you want to start off over here.
Okay, hi. My name is Carolyn, and I am a graduating senior from agricultural communications. So I might be grabbing some cards. So my question is for young women who are about to enter the workforce for the first time and dealing with the issues of negotiating salary and talking about money in the first serious way in our lives. I'm just wondering if you guys have any tips.
Go for it.
So my interaction when I've done recruiting, I call it my side hustle at work. So I try to figure out ways, but this is truly kind of my passion is connecting with the youth, is that one of the things I tell you, it starts freshman year. And this is one of the things that you don't think about. Those internships are critical because when you're going into the workplace, you're competing against people who have full work experience. So making sure that you're building that resume along the way. Now you have to be realistic. I'm going to be transparent and honest about it. If you think about the position that you're going for is at entry level, did you do your research on Glassdoor? Have you done benchmarking? So do your research, but it is okay, you know, to feel like, okay, I feel like there's more opportunity here, but make sure that you have the background and the experience to kind of bring something to that conversation and not just, I feel like I should have this because I would have had what I would have right now a long time ago if that was the case. But I'm sure some of these other ladies may have some feedback or some advice, but there's ranges, there's experience, there's calculations, there's different things that go into all of that when you come into that entry level. But we do take in count of your experience during the summer at Elanco.
Awesome. Does anyone else have a?
To add to that, there is a science behind the bands, the compensation bands. So when you apply for a job, that job might be a $40,000 to $55,000 job. Sometimes people who don't have work experience will start a job or come into a job thinking that it's unlimited, but each job is defined by the salary. However, be careful because sometimes what happens is we may have a job that pays $100,000 a year, but somebody's coming from a role where they made $30,000 a year. Guess what? They're probably going to get offered something less than $100,000. Okay. So you do have to do your research you do have to do your research so you know what that job is. So first of all, if they make you an offer, that means you already fit the qualifications. So you already have the experience to get that job. But do your research ahead of time, because it's not about you as a person. It's oftentimes about the job and what the job is. So if you start as an administrative assistant, you're probably not going to earn a $200,000 salary after 5 years, right? But legit, you might be applying for a job as an agronomist or as a business leader, and it might be a very high salary. But if you're coming out of school and you don't know that, you could be taken advantage of if you don't do your research. So I would second that. Absolutely. Do your research and try to get an understanding for what those salaries generally pay, and have a conversation. I tell you, we don't typically encourage people to negotiate salaries at AgBiome, but when I was at BASF, if you didn't negotiate your salary, I was really questioning whether I wanted to hire you or not. You should always try to negotiate your salary. And it's not just about pay. It can be about total compensation. It could be about your bonus. It could be about days time off. There's lots of ways to get around that total compensation. It's not just your salary. So consider that as well, that maybe you get 3 weeks vacation starting out and you get 2 weeks sick pay, something like that. That's pretty robust. And so think about other ways to negotiate that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think pay should be talked about more. Also, since you came up first, you are winning an Amazon gift card. So thank you so much. Awesome. We want to move on to the next question and then.
Hello, my name is Nadine Redling, and I'm a fourth-year agricultural communications major, and I have recently decided to minor in ag biz and water science. So my question is, as I'm originally from Sacramento, I have no ag business. I'm from the suburbs, and I know Sacramento is the farm to fork capital now. But what advice would you give to those who did not grow up in the ag industry and really want to be there?
Rebecca, you want to go?
Is this thing on? Leslie, time check, time check, okay?
I got you.
So I think if you're looking at these opportunities in ag, I would recommend just to take a good look at what would be transferable skills to a job in ag. So if, like, for example, for me, like if you look at my background, for those of you that read the bio, I have nothing in ag. If you think about it, it's all personal experience. For me, I think I was able to tap into my personal network, which I mentioned was my dad, but also my husband. His family owns a nursery. So I was able to bring in the experiences when I worked in retail, when I hired, when I terminated people, and say, okay, this could work in recruiting, at Brightview. And I think really focusing on the transferable skills will really help you and to be able to sell yourself when it comes to the interview. Like, maybe you have hospitality experience. Guess what? You're going to be a great account manager. You know how to take care of people. So, kind of every single, I would recommend looking at every job description and looking at the duties, and then looking at your resume and writing examples of how you've done that. And then coming prepared to your interview to talk about that.
Perfect. Anyone over here want to add anything?
I'm a big fan of getting out and knowing the customer. So if you did not grow up on a farm, I would suggest that you get to a farm and ask questions of the growers, ask questions of ag distributors, go to trade shows. I agree with everything that Rebecca said. There are definitely some transferable skills. Our communications director never knew anything about ag, and she's in her 40s now, and she's doing ag and she's kicking butt. But I would say get out and get to know that customer and get to know the lingo. You can do that on social media, but it really makes a big impact if you're out there talking to farmers.
Learn by doing. Simone.
I would say a shining star can get in any job, any field, no matter what it is. I've been in ag at this point, I started at Cargill 4 years into it. I didn't have any ag experience. I mean, now I did, milk cows and pick my own eggs and name my chickens, but that certainly didn't have a thing to do with the fact that they were asking me questions. It's about modernization. I mean, literally, I worked for cotton, and we were tailing bags and could tell that our bag of cotton was in, the Côte d'Ivoire. I mean, the Ivory Coast. So it's about modernization. It's about technology, and that's what the ag business is about these days. So if you have a business degree, or if you got ag science, those are the things that we're looking for.
Awesome, thank you. And Simone, I know that you've been trying.
Mike, is it on? Thanks. I love that question because it shows your personality and your drive. So girl, you could get a job anywhere that you wanted. But also like agriculture, it encompasses so much. And that's something that I'm trying to stress right now as a part of agriculture, viticulture and enology. But a lot of people also, they don't think about that. And it's when you think viticulture and enology, it's generally production and vineyards. But the wine industry overall is marketing, PR, HR, DTC. There's so much that's involved in it. And again, like I started studying medical science and then went to physical therapy. So my parents are super unimpressed with the industry that I ended up in. They also don't drink wine, which is sad. But yeah, exactly. That's the biggest problem. But I think the fact that you're even asking like the right questions right now, it's so much about like your personality. If you're willing to go after something, it's something that all of the women on this panel have said already. It's putting yourself out there, you know, showing and going after what you want. And to address Carolyn's question as well, if you don't mind, negotiation is hard. I am a young-ish woman, and coming into Jackson family, I was ready to negotiate for the first time. I've always just accepted whatever was given to me initially. And sure that I think it's a lot, like we as women, we have, let me not speak for all women, but personally, it's hard to challenge, to come into the workforce and be like, okay, this is what I deserve. But right now too, like this is a competitive marketplace. These women have been cutthroat today. Like with their cards being like, no, I'll hire you. It is an employee's market, you know? And it's kind of the first time in our lifetime that we've really seen it like this. Pay is competitive. And I came into Jackson Family Wines. I didn't have to negotiate. I knew what I wanted to ask for, and they offered me more than that. No one's ever done that before with full benefits, 401k, like my car gets paid for, expenses, you know, it is a competition, but looking for the right person, you know, having people with that drive who are asking the right questions. How do you contribute to this industry? But I feel like it's now been flipped. Companies, when you come in to interview, have been like, what can you do for us? And now it's an employee coming in being like, well, what can y'all do for me? So we're in a really special time right now. Thank you for that question, for both of those questions.
Thank you. Awesome. We're going to move over to the next question, and we'll have one question from over here.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jaden. I'm a fourth year environmental management protection student here. I actually just got in UC Santa Barbara for a master's program. So thank you. I'm not looking for a job, but I was curious in your guys' fields and at your businesses, what is sustainability looking like? Do you find that that sector of your company is growing? What do positions in your company in that area look like?
You go, girl.
Have any of you heard of Jackson Family Wines before? Oh, that's more than I was expecting. Awesome. We're leaders in sustainability in the wine industry, but in agriculture. So there's multiple components of what sustainability means. I think the biggest and probably most well-known is the environment, climate change. We have a whole department called Rooted for Good, our sustainable arm. Last Earth Day, we put forward 50 initiatives that our company wants to accomplish by 2050. We called it the Race to Zero. Carbon neutrality was the biggest, converting all of our 45,000 acres to regenerative farming, which is massive. Conventional farming is very big in the wine industry. Now there is a push for SIP certification, being sustainable in practice. But even with SIP certification, there's still certain things that it's not being organic, it's not biodynamic. There needs to be like that next step. So that's what regenerative farming is, which is really massive for this industry. The biggest component of sustainability to me is social sustainability and what that means. So social impact. How are we affecting the communities around us? How are we bringing up the communities where we are? On the Central Coast, we are in our wineries, and the wineries, the brands that I manage are in Lompoc and Santa Maria. Most marginalized communities exist in those cities. So what are we doing there? We're actively investing in those communities. I'm working on a program right now to bring children from both communities as well as Santa Barbara out to the vineyards, but not just to show them viticulture and production, it's business. And to think of this industry as a lucrative business, whether that be, the marketing department, HR, everything that I said before, but just to create a wider lens of what's actually possible with the wine industry is really massive, but it takes investment in these communities to bring everyone up together. If that's where our business is, it's economically fiscal, and we just need to create more awareness around what this industry is overall. So sustainability, to bring that back to your question, is something, it's a huge component, if not the biggest, of Jackson Family, and to focus on the environment, but to have people right at the forefront.
Thank you. Shamika, do you have anything to add to this question, or do you want to go for another?
I would say real quick from the Elanco perspective. So we have the farm animal side of our business and we have the companion animal side of our business. So it's in every aspect, from the products that we make for those producers to even the packaging. So we look at it, a lot of the things that Simone mentioned, we're touching on those things. And actually, I just recently became the Senior Director of Travel and Administration. We're even looking at it from the, what is our footprint from traveling of our employees? So it touches every point of our organization.
Awesome. We're going to move on just for time. Next question, we're going to go over here for Isaac.
Oh, hello. Hi, my name is Alyssa Bowling. I'm a graduating senior. I study history and ethnic studies. I think I struggle a lot with like imposter syndrome because I'm really interested in environmental studies and sustainability, but I struggle with like my level of education, like being a woman, being a person of color. So my question was, have you guys had experience with imposter syndrome? And if you have, like, how did you overcome that? Or how do you continue to overcome it?
I'll take it. So I'm going to jump in because this is something that is very important to me. So when you give labels to things, they grow. Imposter syndrome, shame on them for even giving the name, because here's the sad thing. Outside of any label, you're still an amazing person. So I don't attach myself to labels. They've called me everything. At every corporation I've ever been in, I've been called some things, but I had to grow past that. I had to see myself in a lane that did not allow peripherals to create the person that you see sitting in front of you. Of course, we're impacted by the things that we're exposed to and our experiences, but not to the degree that it changes who you are. So I would say, one, separate from a label. That's the first thing. Other thing is ESG is what's keeping EDI afloat. So, ESG is no longer a thing in the past. ESG is the front runner for everything we do in EDI. EDI sits in the S. S is social, but S is sustainability. That's what it actually stands for, sustainability. And that is why we exist. So when you think about our company, we're anchored out of Canada, and we have a lot of responsibility to treaties and providences and the Canadian government. So as a part of that, ESG is critical to the organization in terms of how we pace towards that. So I can get on a soapbox about all of that, but what I will say is progress looks good on us. So as an organization, I've been there I was just celebrating my 1 year yesterday. Boss Lady back there, who y'all call Boss Lady. Boss Lady, your mom, and I got those names down pat, Karen, but she has just been amazing, and we have celebrated some wonderful milestones in the organization from an EDI perspective, but it's still driving and it's still being driven because of ESG. So it's not a warm fuzzy. I don't work in warm fuzzies. I work in factual, critical natures. I am responsible for a whole lot of stuff in that organization, but it's for us to maintain an image and a likeness in the investment community. That's what ESG is all about. So yes, just wanted to put that out there for folks. And then also, I have chosen her. I thought it was just amazing that
she came up and asked a question because she's been this model student since she came in. She came in on time. She took out her notebook. She started taking notes. She was very attentive and she asked a question. So that's how you get recognized in the organization. So this is just change, right? It's just $20. But hey, I remember when I was a college student, how $20 felt to me, and I want her to come up and get this $20.
You can't forget a business card either. And I know Rebecca. Awesome. And then I know Rebecca was jumping to answer this question as well.
Yeah. Leslie, I have a question for you. Got another 20 for me? Maybe two of them. Anyhow, so I think I related to your question because when I went to school, you know, my majors were in the humanities, and at Stanford, we called them fuzzies. Nothing technical, right? And so, but throughout college, I actually really liked business. I liked making money. I kept working, and everybody's like, why are you working? I'm like, because I need to make money. Like I always thought about the safety net. So I think the first step is accepting it, accepting that that's what you want to do. The next step is to find somebody to give you the opportunity for that. If you don't find it the first time around, keep developing yourself. Like I mentioned, you know, take the classes, like start building your resume. If you're knocking doors and they're not opening up, jump through a window. Find the alternate path. That's what I did. You know, I started working for a nonprofit because I was going to change the world. I was so determined, and then I realized the world changed me. And you know, but my whole thing was I want to be able to do good for the world. I want to change society, and I thought the only way to do that was government or nonprofit. And I realized that you can do that in business. And there's a lot of different ways to do that in business. That my role allows me to do that. And so I think with that understanding, I accepted the position at Target, and I started to develop my business skills. And, you know, I fell into HR. So I think accepting is number one. And then preparing yourself to be competitive because, you know, like it was mentioned earlier, you know, you're going to be competing against people that have done this for years, especially during recessions, because I graduated during the recession of 2008. So, you know, pretty much every single company got rid of their internships and beginner positions. So just understanding that it might be harder right now for you to launch your career. So you might have to go, you know, a different path to get the skills that you need. But eventually, you know, just gathering the courage to continue applying and finding those windows, I think will get you to where you really want to be and deserve to be.
Thank you. Kayla.
Oh, okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Jennifer Lee, and I'm a third-year ENVM major, and I minor in biology. So my question has been touched upon for a little bit earlier. It's kind of a two-part question. It is, when you are a minority in the room, how do you make sure your voice is being heard when others in the same space do not share the same cultures and experiences as you? And the second part of the question is, how do you prevent burnout from taking on the extra burden of being a woman of color and doing extra work in the workplace?
That's a great question.
Yeah, but I'm trying not to be greedy.
Anyone else? Go for it.
I really appreciate that question. You guys make me take a deep breath today. This is, man, it's just a part of everyday life right now, isn't it? And especially coming into these spaces and knowing that there's not a lot of people who look like us currently in these industries, in areas of leadership or, you know, entry level. We're really at the forefront of this in a lot of ways. Y'all are pioneers in a lot of ways, and that's weird to think about because you're about to graduate college. So when it comes to making your voice heard in a room that doesn't look like you, woof, that happened to me yesterday. As like first Black estate manager within this company, first generation, third culture, South African, you know, like not a lot of people know about my culture overall. And then to then express, like, we introduced a cultural calendar recently to the company overall. We celebrated Dominican Independence Day, that was on the 28th. I talked about like my family traditions around Christmas. I grew up in a Catholic African household. What does that mean? and what religious holidays meant something to my family. So I'm not gonna tell you that it's comfortable. It is incredibly uncomfortable, especially when the majority of people who hold leadership in the wine industry are straight white men. So for women to come in, women of color to come in and voice our opinions and they're generally of a different generation too, who have been in the industry for a substantial amount of years. So it's easy to feel like an imposter in that situation. But you're bringing something new and perspective that is moving the company forward. They have to recognize that. There's no other choice. Otherwise, the business won't survive. So even though it's difficult, it does become more comfortable. It's not yet, but every single time that you do raise your voice and you do say something, they have to hear you and they have to look to the future. And you just making that foundation right there, you're paving the way for so many women who look like you afterwards to then have that immediate relief instead of being in that area of discomfort and having to take a deep breath to be like, how do I deal with this? How am I going to talk to my therapist about this next week? You know, like it's such a variety of things, and there's longevity to this work for sure. But it's every day and it's ongoing. It's not just internally within the industry, it's looking at our external environments as well. We live in the Central Coast, y'all. We live in San Luis Obispo. I live in Santa Ynez. These are predominantly white spaces as well, you know? So it's a combination of things. And for that too, we're constantly reminded that we're different and it's really easy to feel other. I want to be real and say that it is kind of like a burden to bear in that way, but being able to voice that, it's that mental fortitude that we talked about in the first question, which is a part of the resiliency that we have as women. It's built into our DNA. And sometimes it seems unfair, but man, the long-term effects of you just taking that initial step, you'll see the ripples in a year and 2 years and 5 years and 10 years. I can't wait to see what this industry looks like because of women like y'all. So thank you for asking those questions.
Thank you. And Leslie, do you want to quickly touch on it? And then we have to go to our last question.
Real quick. So what I would say, guys, is ask a question. So the way that I got into a boardroom was asking the right questions. The way that I was able to go from a director to a vice president almost overnight was asking the right questions. No matter if you're a woman, person of color, it doesn't matter. If you are intelligent, if you can articulate, you get into a room, I don't care the size of it, I don't care who's in there. Ask the right questions. They will take notice. I'm a prime example of that. Mr. Smith himself at FedEx took me on as a mentee. I didn't ask for it. Mr. Smith, does anybody know who Mr. Smith is? Founder of FedEx. Does anybody know what FedEx is? Yeah, it's because I asked the right questions and he gave me a new job and a new job and a new job and ended up giving me a job at the end of my career there that was over the entire diversity function for the organization of about 400,000+ people. So ask the right questions.
Thank you. And then let's head into our last question over here.
Hi, my name is Olivia Jarrett, and I'm a second-year agricultural communications major. And my question is, as I'm always looking for new internships and other opportunities, joining the workforce is very competitive, and I feel like I have a really good resume. So as employers, when you get applicants, I'm sure everything starts to look the same because everything's online. Like, you see so many different resumes. You can't see people through a phone call, or there's nothing that memorable about a Zoom call. So when it comes down to selecting a final candidate for a job position, what is your deciding factor and what can applicants do to stand out?
That's a great question. I wanted to give it Tony. Shamika.
So shared purpose is really important. So by the way, we are hiring an ag communications person right now, but anyway, but if you believe in what we believe, if you share in our values, that is huge. Because you're absolutely right. I mean, we probably have gotten 20 applicants for that role, but that's where that cover letter comes in handy. And also, if you've done some philanthropy, things like that, put that on your resume so that it connects with us. But I met my husband's boss's daughter for the first time, who said to me, I just want to do good in the world. I don't care about making a lot of money. I really want to give back. That's what I truly believe in. And I was like, oh, we need to have a conversation then. She just finished her master's degree in corporate communications from Columbia University, but she cared about what we were doing, and we made that connection immediately. So I would say that's one way to do it.
Thank you. And then Shamika?
Don't underestimate the power of what you can do online. If you need to interview with me and I'm in Indiana and you're here, that energy does come through. So one of the things that I've kind of coached students to do is that if you limit yourself and you say, how do I stand out? I'm looking for leadership. I'm looking for, and let's be real. How many of you have been on a dating website? You haven't met the person, you figured it out, didn't you? So what I'm saying is, and I like to bring in real examples because we like to pretend like when we're recruiting and we're hiring that we can't figure it out online, but we have found social ways to figure it out online. It is the same power you have in you when you interview. I can bring that same energy to you there. So I want to encourage all of you, stop focusing on what you don't have. I'm looking for leadership. I'm looking, do you give into your community? I'm looking for, did she leave something with me about her that's going to make her stand out? So don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be a robot, because I got to work next to you every day. I want to work next to a person, not a robot.
Awesome. And then just because of time, I know we're kind of going into the networking session, but we do have 2 Zoom questions. So I'll let Kayla take that away.
Okay, so this first one is from David Folino, and he asks, what new technologies and developments does your company bring to agriculture?
Awesome. Rebecca, do you want to take that?
So at Brightview, we do electronic time cards. So all of our employees are logging in their times through their smartphones. And we're also using different applications in our operations to service our clients. So that's like the 2 things that popped to mind as I hear that question. And also just in general, we're constantly training our management team to use new applications and to track and use applications like Salesforce and, Excel and just your regular applications to do the job. So we do incorporate technology in various aspects. I'm sure Amanda Bender here, branch manager for West LA, can provide more examples of how we do that when we talk outside with the students.
Leslie?
So of course, this is agriculture, but we have a device that can go into the middle of a farm, or what do we say, a crop, or what else do we say, Guy? Yes, exactly. And they can go inside their homes, look on their computers and see the health of their soil. Never, ever has that ever been done before. So that's us, that's Nutrient. I'm just saying.
Awesome. And then the last question.
Okay, final question. This is from Isaiah Gonzalez. He says, how do you think the diversity of thought and experience play in achieving these developments?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. I'm impressed.
Rebecca? Oh,
go ahead. Okay. So I think a lot of the times people think, oh, well, I worked on my uncle's farm, or I worked on, with my uncle's like tree care company in the summer. And they think, well, that doesn't matter. It wasn't an internship, so I'm not going to highlight it. If you're applying to a tree care company, you want to highlight that. You want to bring that up to the recruiter, because that's experience. That's experience other people are not going to have on their resume. So if you have the opportunity to connect with recruiters, bring that up. Pull that into your transferable skills, because that all counts.
Awesome. And then Shamika, were you trying to say something?
Just real quick, everything that we have experienced, that's what makes us unique. And that's what makes us bring something different to the table. So as we're developing those technologies and those innovations, we could have all went to school for the same major, but all have something different that highlighted in our educational experience. So we're leveraging those in Elanco to move our innovation and continue to move our technology.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of your answers. And thank you so much for the audience for asking questions. We just want to wrap this event up by saying thank you so much for coming today. Again, thank you to our speakers. We want to do 2 more raffles, so pull out your cards. These are the last 2 times that you can win something. Hey, first one, you're winning a Starbucks gift card. 674646. Awesome. Congrats. And our very last one, we are doing a Cal Poly Tumbler, School Pride. Okay, 674-644. Awesome, in the back. Perfect. Well, we have several of our speakers did bring little information about their companies. I know Rebecca has the bright blue bags with her business cards, but don't worry because we will have a networking session so you can get business cards from other speakers as well because they are hiring. Lastly, a very final thank you to our sponsor, Nutrien. We truly appreciate it. We couldn't have done this without you. I love learning about everyone's different personal experiences. And yeah, I think that's all from me. I'm not sure, Kayla.
Yeah,
Isaac?
one quick announcement, just like housekeeping stuff for students who are taking the shuttle bus back. There's one leaving in 5 minutes, and then I think they'll make another round. So if you are trying to make that, just a heads up. And yeah, thank you. I feel super inspired, and I absolutely loved everything all of you guys had to say. This Zoom recording, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little hesitant about it in the beginning because that freaked me out a little bit, but I think I will be rewatching this when I need a little pick me up. So thank you guys so much. It's really appreciated.
Thank you so much. So our networking session is going to be in the back right over there with the white tables. You're free to go out there. There's some drinks out there. Enjoy, speak to our wonderful speakers. Again, thank you so much for making the travel out here.